Colombia is one of the South American countries that maintains a great variety of natural ecosystems that accompany the urban development of important political, economic, and cultural centers such as the city of Bogota. Located in the department of Cundinamarca, the capital city is accompanied by the Sabana, being part of the Altiplano Cundiboyacense of the eastern range of the Colombian Andes. Defined within the limits of its characteristic diversity, Mosquera presents the relationship between the savanna and the metropolitan area of the capital city, contemplating a unique opportunity that allows to highlight its identity and essence. Understanding that it formally differs from its adjacent settlements thanks to the division generated by the Bogota River as a barrier between urban development of metropolitan density and rural development of predominantly green voids within an area of 10,700 hectares. Linked to the presence of Calle 13 as a local axis and the main regional connection route, Mosquera has fostered the growth of its settlements along this extension, projecting said road as an urban barrier between the north and the south. In the search to generate new connections between the municipalities of La Sabana, the government proposes a new railway system for the year 2024, which will enhance the concept of the axis as a limit and will produce a flow that generates large urban growth. The continuous expansion of the settlements contemplates a process of contamination of the ecosystem through the waste that is discharged in the network of canals, rivers, and wetlands that present problems associated with the diffusion of risk zones due to flooding. The road infrastructure is defined from Calle 13 as the only artery that irrigates a set of dissociated routes, generating traffic congestion and inefficient flow for the region. This street has delimited the urban development directed by the growth of the industry, generating the fragmented conception of an urban mass constituted from independent patches. The correlation that maintains each of these elements contemplates the conversion of the different problems into opportunities that generate integration, consolidation, and development. Understanding that these conditions generate a lack of sustainability, mobility, and feedback for an integral and sustainable urban expansion, the development of three fundamental pillars is essential: connectivity, sustainability, and community integration. For this situational correlation, the idea of an interaction of the urban ecosystem as an unifying thread of an integrating diversity arises. This conception defines the reinterpreted vision of living in Mosquera, where its network of canals and purest urban variety constitute new relationships between industrial areas, pedestrian infrastructures, and agricultural fields as part of the community and tourist activity, understanding that the current panorama, fragmented and dissociated from different urban components, it would become Mosquera AgrodiverCity. Adopting a comprehensive process that consolidates a circular ecosystem for the exchange of products and activities between neighboring communities and sectors. The development of the idea is raised through a catalog that includes urban guidelines and pieces, designed to meet the needs of a comprehensive and diversified community. Agrodiversity is assembled from various typologies considering the existing and lacking characteristics in the areas of agriculture, housing, tourism, industry, facilities, and services. Currently, agricultural development is consolidated in a disaggregated way on 23% of green areas, so the concept of cultivation is implemented as a transition space and typological integration between areas, proposing models of crops and greenhouses as tourist and community attractions, as well as hydroponic pavilions and land cultivation plots for community and industrial use, including productions such as planting flowers and biofilters as part of green areas for recreation. These typologies will be implemented under integration schemes through public spaces, bodies of water, and urban corridors as the case may be. Housing, on the other hand, is currently concentrated around the southern edge of Calle 13, maintaining various typologies that differ in density and plot, lacking public spaces between urban masses or are dissociated from agricultural areas in lower density sectors intended for residents temporarily. Therefore, various clusters are defined that include the integration of crops and recreational areas in higher density organizations and defining large green areas in lower density sectors, interpreting new forms of tourism organization as means of contemplation and interaction with the diversity of the savanna. These typologies will be unified to agricultural production systems, both industrial and artisanal, having services and urban corridors according to the type of organization and the limitations that each one implies. Additionally, the industry is concentrated around the north and south of Calle 13, maintaining typologies limited to monoproduction that differ in terms of scale, context, and density, but are similar in their isolated organization and close to the outside. Therefore, new types of clusters are defined that can expand the integration of the industry within the urban framework, associating organizations that include public spaces, crops, services, and houses according to the production of each industry. These typologies will be implemented accompanied by recreational or agricultural areas, as transition spaces integrated with corridors and urban mass depending on the impact of their production. Finally, the services and facilities are considered, which are scattered among the patches to the south of Calle 13, for which essential typologies associated with public space are proposed, thus becoming strategic points that change the dynamics of the place and provide an interaction between patches from the service they provide to the community. These typologies will accompany various clusters from other areas, being implemented along urban corridors and recreational or productive spaces. The implementation of each of the pieces following their guidelines will form integral groups, obtaining multiple residential, agricultural, and industrial organizations that are added to develop an agro-diverse organization, which will be integrated into a system of corridors that make up a connection structure and order. From the existing dissociation between water bodies, the existing patches in Calle 13, first, for the consolidation of an agro-diverse system, the protection of reserves, wetlands, main canals, and rivers is proposed, through corridors that define spaces destined to floatable squares or linear parks that protect the ecosystem and the community. Along with these protection systems, attractor corridors are developed that generate new connections and flows throughout the system, weaving a thread that integrates Fonsa, Bosa, and Madrid as part of a new urban and agricultural organism that accompanies the irrigation canals, define a network with the new rail system, and release the extension of Calle 13. Between each of the corridors, divisions of land are consolidated from the existing canals, obtaining polygons that will be the future patches destined for occupation. The expansion process will be delimited by three general guidelines: urbanization around main corridors, the integration of urban patches with green spaces, and the protection of important water courses from agricultural areas, defining then the urbanizable areas and the voids of the sector. Understanding that there are multiple combinations of typological pieces, agrodiversity associates the conception of diverse schemes that contemplate varieties of occupation within the previously proposed urbanization guidelines, verifying the heterogeneity and ductility of the process. To confirm the operation of the diverse agrosystem, a hypothetical case of occupation is presented through the integration of patches that will serve as a guide to verify the viability of the process. The agrodiversity assembly scheme begins with an analysis of the current situation for the definition of urban corridors and the grouping of pieces using the established guidelines. This process defines whole cells that establish appropriate relationships with current and proposed fragments. For this test, a sector that includes multiple contextual conditions was selected, containing Calle 13 existing patches, waterways, corridors, urban areas, and proposed voids. Understanding that the agrodiversity scheme seeks to stop the continuous dissociating growth and the lack of connections, the assembly process, composed of corridors, access, green areas, and occupation polygons, is developed. This process can be implemented multiple times throughout the system, integrating independent assembly processes that can be performed asynchronously. The flexibility of agrodiversity will allow the admission of multiple groups in the same sector, adapting heterogeneity as the essence of its integral richness and its entertaining spatial identity.